I like your shirt, Ron.
Oh, the what is it? Hampton Beach.
Woohoo!
Yeah, I'm gonna get there one day. It's on my. So I picked this up and I'm like I'm gonna go there one day. So, and I don't go crazy over them, but I like visiting lighthouses. So, haven't never activated one, but so whenever we go somewhere, if there's a lighthouse near, so I always like so if we ever go, I'll just look for where the lighthouses are and go out and ones that you can actually get to and climb up. So
Yeah, we got quite a few of them in the area. So from
yeah.
Hampton on, actually from Gloucester, Mass on north is it's got to be like 20 of them.
Yeah, there's I was looking at it. It's I mean, there's a lot of the I was reading something. There was a woman that was, I guess, was the last privately owned or the last one who actually lived in an operating lighthouse for, and it wasn't that long ago. It was a couple years ago. But I mean, I mean, they don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
And the ones that we do have been so automated, nobody has to be around anymore.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The days of carrying buckets of oil to keep the flame lit are gone.
Hey Ron,
Thankfully
Ron,
over.
you're in control, man. So you pull the trigger when you want to start it,
Oh, okay.
and just know that John Tarbox likes to smack me around when I don't start things on time,
Got
and
it.
so
Got it. Yeah.
he may do the same to you. So just a fair warning.
Well, he's not on yet, so he can't smack me
Yeah.
around. I guess he can watch the
Yeah, actually, I don't think he's
recording.
coming tonight, but he'll watch the recording and then tell you you were late. So
Yeah. No. Well, I can blame we can blame lighthouses. So, all right, everyone. Welcome to the first knowledge share of the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet season 2025. Um,
yeah,
we're working on, if anybody has any ideas or things they'd like to see on any of these presentations, please let us know. We're gonna, like Jeff did, we're gonna try and keep them on track and on time, and so we can, get over it and have discussion as we need. Uh, Tonight's presenter is Mr. John Huggins. I think I said that right.
Yes.
Um, And essentially, it is, John, and a lot of people have been looking at sites and doing path analysis. So this one, the September Knowledge Share, I kind of called it Examining Appalachian Trail Golden Packet Alternate Sites. So John's looking to share some of the work that he's done looking at alternate sites and path analysis since he may have started it before the event, but definitely has been looking at some of it since the event. So uh, without further ado, John, we'll kick it over to you. And yeah, I assume you have the ability to get control of the screen by now.
Okay.
As I haven't tried it. I haven't taken the control. So
I'm looking.
while John's looking for it, like I said, if you have any questions or anything, we're gonna try and look at ideas of possibilities for next year. I know I've been looking at alternate sites and things up in the Pennsylvania area, trying to find something that's a little bit higher, a little bit more open, or potentially if there's potentially putting a mini site in the middle of it or something. So I've been kind of looking at a bunch of different things, trying to find the different peaks. And every time I find a great peak, it's really good to Camelback and not to Maryland, or it's really good to Maryland and not to Camelback. So uh, Pennsylvania just has one of those ridges that like 12 to 1600-foot ridge that kind of goes across the state that kind of gets in the way of Maryland to Camelback. And even if you put one somewhere on there, makes it interesting. So, all right. Well, John's getting ready. Hey, I see Glenn has joined. We got Dale. Dale's been on actually since I think since the call started. All right, there we go. We can see it, John. You got it.
Cool. Just the screen, not my face or anything.
No face. Just yeah.
All right.
It's just a screen with the trail and I guess the for lack of better words, simulated 3D with a mountain range.
Yes. So I heard over the emails over this year a few proposals made for a couple of different places in Maryland and I think Pennsylvania. AT parking lot. There's AT parking lot and there was an AT shelter. That's the number 7 you see on this. And let me see if I can kind of zoom in on that a little bit.
And we actually ended up using the shelter because it was 15 meters higher, I think.
Okay. Well, I think there's probably a wash depending on
Yeah.
how you look at it. So that was active this year, correct?
Yes, correct.
So the big move then is Maryland Mountains has moved over all along the AT as well. And we seem to be having problems with that mountain range. Gone are the days when we had Dick's big tower on the top of that whole range. And it was basically dead nuts from White Rock Cliff to him and from him to the GD Hill. So GD Hill is not on here either. So I guess the AT parking lot was the substitute for GD Hill, if I understand that correctly.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to do the best analysis we could, using the radio mobile. It looked like the signal was relative. It was always good to Camelback, and it looked like it was a very similar signal going back to Maryland Mountains where it was last year.
Okay, so the focus then is basically from 5 north. Big Flats AT Park is the one I found. That's probably new to most people here. AT parking lot or shelter is already known. Camelback is known. And then we got Slide Mountain to Mount Greylock. And then there's a really new one here called Dorset Park Tower. So I think I have Google Earthed on all of this type of thing. Big Flats. This is a drive up. It's the terminus for, well, I don't know about you call it terminus. It's an access point for the AT.
Yeah.
And what's nice about it is that we could probably park there without too much attention, which I know we can be sensitive to sometimes, and basically have a pretty commanding view. It probably requires a modest amount of antenna height to clear the trees, but I think as far as things go, that probably won't be too much of a problem. So yeah, that's brand new, completely drive up. And just to give you clarity, the color coding that I have on here is kind of rated as difficulty to get to. 0 meaning some substantial hike, with Tim, of course, being the king, and yellow being some modest hike up. Apple Orchard is about a half a mile up that trail unless you've got permission to get past the gate. And then, of course, greens are easy drive ups. That's my color coordination here. I'm not saying it's the best way to go, but that's what I did. So Big Flats is the big move from Maryland. And really not a whole lot to tell about it, except if we do some quick signals from White Rock to Big Flats, it's very, very reliable, very error-free. At a 95%, it's pretty rock solid. All of these links are 95% or better.
What's interesting, John, is I think Big Flats is one of the peaks that Jeremy had given me last year, but I was only looking at it as a possible replacement for GD Hill. I never even considered going, from there to White Rock. So that's genius.
Well, it's just messing around long enough. Maryland Mountains seems to continually have problems because of the geometry involved here. And And I did do a whole lot of looking at various places around those Maryland mountains. So Camp David is up there, I think. There's a couple of outlooks, but none of them seem to have a good north and south view. It has views. And I think, where was you at? The tea house? That was pretty much far at the southern end. And I was able to hear him pretty well, but I think the link north was a little questionable. I can't remember. Somebody will have to have some remind me of the history of that. Anyway, so then from there to the next one up, well, it's AT parking lot. I could probably do it for the other one as well, but I mean, it's going to be similar. It's over a valley.
Yeah.
Very handsome. And then we get the Camelback. And a little more terrain, but still rock solid. And you can give us you felt pretty good about the link to Camelback, no problem.
Yeah, from GD Hill to Camelback, I thought it was a pretty good link. And if you use the actual shelter, which is higher, I don't know if it would improve it much. I think, like I said, it's probably negligible. It's just on the other side of the mountain. The parking lot is. It's on the downslope on the other side.
So let's have a good look at that. I do have that in
Because
Google Earth.
I thought on your drop down you had shelter.
I looked at both of them. One's just sort of in the trees, so I was always wondering about that. But
yeah, and I was able to get an antenna up, 50 plus feet near the top of the trees, and the thing, like I said, I could hear Maryland Mountain until he swapped radios, but I was always able to hit Camelback once they came on.
so I'm not exactly sure why I have parking lot in the trees here, but I guess the shelter's over here.
Yeah, yep.
6 one way, half dozen the other, I think.
Yeah.
Except it's just a little more convenient. Sorry about that. So anyway, so we're around here. And it sort of grazes the mountain as it leaves. So it's pretty cool. But the shelter's going to be a little bit better if you get that 50 feet up there. That's never going to hurt. So I don't know if I actually did the next one. Let's see. I obviously did the northbound link. Sorry to make you all sick.
No, it's like flying in the simulator.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how far these links go. Camelback. Okay, so that's that drive up with the parking lot down there. That's where I assumed it would be. So,
Yeah, I think that's where was it Matt Jenny who was there?
that I don't know. So, next proposal is Slide Mountain.
Matt Jenny was Bovina this year. This was oh gosh, guy's name is eluding me right now. I'll come back with it.
Yeah, no worries.
So this is a link, a brand new one, to take us to a place called Slide Mountain. And let's have a quick look at the geometry there. It's a fairly clear shot. Slide Mountain is something that I believe has been discussed several times independently. I've stumbled onto it independently. But it is a hike. I think it's definitely got some terrain to it. And I don't know if we're going to be able to do that with our team, but who knows? I think it has an established trail. I'm not exactly sure where the top of the mountain is. Sometimes these Google Maps can kind of lead you astray. And you can see that the lines are actually buried in the trees. That's because the elevation data is to the ground level, and Google Earth always shows you the elevation to the treetops. So it can be kind of deceiving. But nonetheless, it's got pretty good links to the north and south, and the trailhead's way over here. And it's probably a couple-hour hike. Now, that's a lot to ask, but, we can consider.
Yeah, not only the hours hike, but look at that dip you have to go through and come back up the other side of to get there.
You talking about getting all tired at the end of the day?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm sure there's a terrain trail map somewhere that people can look at. We can only hope that maybe it folloes this ravine.
I think I hear Tim laughing his ass off in the background. Oh, no.
Yeah.
He's on mute.
Yes, I know, Tim. So I'm up in the game to support a Tim-like adventure here.
No, I hike a lot, and I just yesterday, and even a couple 100 feet, I'm telling you guys, it sucks. You go up to a peak and then you hike down 200-300 feet, and then you're gonna go back up 400 feet. You do that a couple times, man, you're worn out. I don't care who you are.
So you don't do motivational speaking for a living, do you?
No.
Are you saying he should consider it, Jeff?
I'm saying you should consider it. Yes, absolutely.
So Slide Mountain's link to the north has got some obstructions somewhat close. So let's have a look at that. And I believe we're talking about Greylock. Now, when I do this at work, I get a little bit of a different answer, which is a little strange. But it's a pretty clear shot here. Robust link. Rock solid distribution. And I'm thinking that Radio Mobile takes 4/3 Earth into account, whereas I think Google Earth probably doesn't. And so we actually have it crashing into the center of the link, crashing into land here, which would not be true in an actual RF link, which curves a little bit. That's my story. I'm sticking to it for the moment. So that takes us all the way to Dorset Peak. Now, let's go back to the maps here. The link between Slide Mountain and Dorset is there, but it's a little iffy. So keeping Mount Greylock in the chain would make it robust. Yeah, you got to be careful with Radio Mobile, depending on your settings. The links can be a little different, but this guarantees success, I believe. I also have a test link right here, just to see what Mount Greylock and Mount Washington does. And, it's the one that goes south first. But if we have this little bit in here, I think we can get our way through here, which has been sort of a trouble in years past. And get on past on up to Sugarloaf and home. Does anybody remember? Do we have connection between Greylock and Mount Washington typically?
Let me go look at the raw packets that Greylock gated, but Don would know the answer off the top of his head. I see it.
John, I think John said that it was never an issue that he was able to get packets directly from Greylock, from what I recall. But
so the answer is that if you've got a really good station on Mount Washington, it's okay, but you're stretching it.
To Greylock.
Yeah, Greylock to Washington can be done, but it's a stretch.
Okay.
Normally we've gone from Greylock to God, my mind just went blank, in Vermont.
Yeah, Equinox.
And then Equinox to Washington has been strong as long as there's a good radio on Washington.
So Equinox is not shown here. Let me see if I can bring it up.
Yeah, it's been the traditional site, and from Greylock to Equinox is very sweet.
Okay, so there it is. It's basically just to the north a little bit. And
it's a drive up, and you can literally, from the summit of Greylock, you can see the summit of Equinox in the parking lot.
Okay. And
Yeah,
Greylock can get to it no problem.
Greylock can get to Equinox trivially. Equinox has a good solid connection to Washington.
Yeah, every packet from Mount Washington that was gated by Greylock came through Equinox on its way to Greylock.
Yeah.
Okay.
No direct. Okay.
Well, it's just an option I found, and it's not an easy one. So it's interesting though because it's a park and it has an old fire tower in there, which you can actually Google and see. It's a remnants of one, and you can probably utilize that to get some elevation on an antenna. But it is a hike, and
Yeah, whereas Equinox is a drive up and you're literally at the summit, a clear summit in the parking lot.
Actually, let me correct what I just said and say that Don, when you were running Greylock P11, you were copying Mount Washington direct, but Gray LCK 11 was also hearing him direct before your eye gate. So yeah, there are some packets that came directly through. More packets came through LCP than what came through LCK direct from Mount Washington.
That's probably because LCP was on the air longer.
That could be because I can't tell which one was live when.
Yeah. LCP was on the air longer than LCK.
Yeah, and that was all of the direct received were from 1630 UTC to 1710. So there were a whole bunch of packets, not really a whole bunch, but there were a whole bunch of packets flying after that did not come direct. But up to 1710, there were some that came direct.
okay, well, I guess the big push here that I'm talking about is moving Maryland Mountains to a new spot. And that would be Big Flats, which is a drive.
What was the distance between those?
Between
White Rock
between
and
the two.
yeah, between White Rock and Big Flats.
Hey, this is Jim Conrad. Last year, there was no problems at Maryland Mountain that I recall. Were there any documented?
Do you remember where they were located the previous year?
Same exact spot that I was this year within 5 feet.
I
The difference
thought
was
we-
I didn't run Kenwood. I ran WX3-in-1 with Motorola radios. But to my knowledge, we had a good path last year, at least through Maryland Mountain. Not this year, but last year. Different equipment. And sorry,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
late.
Where were you? We're
Maryland
talking about
Mountain last year and this year.
Okay. So you and I heard each other pretty well, I think, from White Rock Cliff.
Yeah, there was no problems even this year going south. The problem was north, and part of it is I'm sure that the Kenwood D710 I have probably has some issues. I thought I'd gotten it repaired. I don't typically use the Kenwood mobiles, but this year was a Kenwood event, so I bought that one and fixed the filter problem, which is a documented issue with the 710s. Previous year I used WX3-in-1s with Motorola radios. But this year everything's south, and when I discovered the 710 issue, I switched to a D72, which doesn't have the output, but I still should have heard 7. As at 6, I should have heard 7. They may not have heard me, but I never got any packets from 7 coming south after I switched, and everything was solid going from 6 to 5, even with a 72 and 5-6 watts.
Yeah, and it was at 5 or 4 picked up 7, which amazes me, but it got gated down there somewhere.
I mean, there's always the possibility of tropo.
Yeah.
I regularly, 7 when it was at GD Hill, right?
Yeah.
In years past, I've actually heard him and Dick, Bob and Dick talking on 440 from White Rock Cliff. It's pretty wild. I believe occasionally we did see packets would bypass Maryland Mountains that come straight to me. Pretty rare, but it did happen. One year, Dick had the exact same problem with the descents on a 710, and we had to get that fixed live with somebody that drove up there and helped him figure it out. He didn't operate it. He just basically bolts it to his antenna and called it a day. But yeah, we had the A-band sensitivity issue one year, and I think I was probably hearing the occasional 8 packet coming through, or I'm sorry, 7. So anyway,
And
in
I had 1200 baud packet on the AP, the frig too, so that could have caused some interference at some point. And I'm going to go back up there with a regular TNC and see if I can figure out what the source of that is, because it was ongoing during the entire event. And I tried to reach both the south and north on UHF, and nobody apparently heard me.
Yeah, so the difference between 2023 and 24, as far as what you saw, White Rock Cliff was the same, but GD Hill was in 2023. Is that right, everyone?
Yeah,
And then it moved to AT parking lot this year.
yeah. We moved to the shelter this year.
Okay, so that's a reasonable difference that could be part of the issue here, since you're having trouble. Not your gear or anything, but I mean just the fact of the landscape.
And I actually had another probably 10 to 15 feet on the antenna height. I used something a little different and got the antenna up even higher this year. So I should have been able to hear, even using the D72, I should have been able to hear GD Hill with the D72, and I got 0 packets from at that point. I think I did see some earlier in the day.
In this year.
This year.
Yeah, there was no GD Hill this year, right?
Because when there was GD Hill, I mean, it was called GD Hill. You tell me.
Yeah, GD Hill has been there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
we
name
called it
GD Hill, but it was at the 501 shelter.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just moved the
Okay, so
location,
it
but the
was a
name
physically
stayed the
different
same.
place with the same
Yeah.
name.
Correct.
Okay, so that would probably account for it. And I don't have I'm sorry, I don't have that in this version. I have that in last year's. I could probably look at that some just to verify. That
There's no
long strip of
question the
mountains.
original GD Hill worked. The big question is looking at if there was a different site that, because in the big picture, being able to stay up there and not get kicked off of that. Now, it hasn't happened, to my knowledge, in the past, but during, nice days that people are up and down that tower all day long during the event, and you're sitting there with your gear and you're kind of in the way. So it's kind of like being on a lighthouse, in a small, narrow lighthouse. So,
Got it. Yeah.
So
I had the same issue at Greylock when I ran Greylock. I'd do it in the tower. And I did it with a D72 and was totally successful. People normally just ask a lot of questions and were fascinated with the event.
Yep, had that last year too. But the issue is trying to find something that would actually be feasible if you ever wanted to have any kind of permanent infrastructure. That was the original intent, was to not just go out and do it once a year, but the original intent was find locations that you could possibly do something and have something set up, and working. So even though the GD Hill Tower is a great location, metal, and you can put an antenna on top, part of the issue is the being able to do that on any kind of regular basis, other than when you want to do it for an event. And, talking with JJ, there are times where, the park rangers will come up there and, people are doing something or whatever, they may or may not.
It hasn't happened in the past, but I just know there are nice weather days. There's a lot of foot traffic up there, and it's a very confined area. So I'm more than happy to take the blame for it not causing or not working this year. That's, but it's part of the experimentation to see if something works. See if you can have a better site, because it was probably 400 feet higher in elevation, I think. And the signal to north was good. The signal on paper to the south looked good. So, part of it was trying to see if it was a feasible thing where you didn't have to get in the way of people climbing up the tower all day long.
Yeah, rest easy. I don't think we're looking to place blame. We're just looking to understand and improve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to go back up to Maryland Mountain again sometime before next year's event. My schedule is kind of iffy, but I would be willing to go back up there and do some more testing.
Yeah.
I did that a couple of years ago, myself and Jeff, I forget which Jeff it was. Jeff and I went up and did Greylock and Mount Washington independent to do some experimentation. So I would be more than willing to do that.
Yeah. just give me a week or two heads up, and I'll be more than happy to, if I can, as long as there's nothing else going on, get up to whatever you call it, the shelter, and then
Lynn,
even play with the height of an antenna, and then let Lynn know when we're doing it so we can throw a eye gate up there as well.
Yeah,
Well,
that'd be great.
I would bring one of the WX3-in-1s and set it up as the eye gate like I did. I didn't have time this year. My schedule is because I've got a 1-year-old now. Schedule has gone out the window for this year, but I had done that the year before and did the eye gate. I'm trying to get that set up in a semi-permanent go case so I can drag it anywhere to do the data collection for these events.
Yeah.
Just I ran out of time this year, but I think that would be great. I think we can solve the problem.
Yeah.
And I've got some Yagi antennas that I'd like to drag along if we're doing testing and see if we can do a better link margin with a high gain Yagi antenna. Maybe that'll at least identify we can get a signal through, but see what level we're getting it through with
Yeah.
a different type of antennas.
And I was looking at some of the other, because I was using a Diamond X50, and I was looking at some of the other variants of it, with the different gain, but I'm not looking at them and understanding it, and looking at the patterns. Would any of those be better than the X50? Because I know the X50, people said it's a good antenna, but they have, and I don't know if it's a 200 or 300. One of them's like, you're sure as heck not going to take it up there because it's like 16 feet long. So
That would be a climb.
yeah.
we can have an antenna clinic at some point. I do that for a living.
Yeah.
And I definitely have my opinions on certain products. They all work pretty well, but
Yeah,
some
'cause I
definitely
was-
give you an edge. There's no doubt about it.
Because even before it, I was looking at, can I do two Yagis pointing back to back, facing the opposite direction, but I can never find something that actually I could know would work, because it's apparently you have to have them a certain distance apart, and
And you have to phase them properly.
yeah. So, and
Berninga did that, and I always
Yeah.
advised him that's like, you're not making two antennas, you're making one big antenna. And
Yeah.
the good news is, if you do have them modestly separated, they're pretty good about not seeing in the back too well.
yeah,
Like you can put a meter stick behind a 2-meter Yagi, and yeah, you have a little effect, but it's very little. And
yeah,
yeah, you can do that. But I would argue that a good Omni, unless you're trying to quell a competing signal somewhere, if that's like Mount Washington, I'm sure probably has something. If you're just in the quiet, a good Omni with the double collinear type of thing is much simpler to put up. You don't have to think about it. And
Yeah.
the one I use is actually quite light. I mean, we hiked it up 3 hours.
yeah. Well, I think we more than happy to take you up on an antenna clinic for, specific for, when you're trying to go north and south. What some options would be if for, especially for me, or, if we're going to try and, so I can test with Jim, maybe a better antenna. So, we can definitely look at doing something for, but I don't want to, if, for here tonight, if you still have more to go, I don't want to, get stuck in the GD Hill thing right now.
No, not much. I
Yeah.
did have a question for Lynn. So Lynn, like this year, where did the breaks happen?
There was a break coming south out of Mount Washington until he took his HT up onto the very peak, because he was not being heard south, although he was hearing from the south. So he did not know that he wasn't up high enough. And that was what I called the unidirectional link, where he could hear, so he thought he was being heard. And then the major link that was pretty much for the whole day was the links south of GD Hill into Maryland Mountains. That one, from the packet logs, yeah, we might have gotten 1 or 2 or 3 packets through between the two halves, but in general, that link was dead most of the day.
And I think that had to do with the D710 I have, which I haven't had time, but I'm going to investigate that further. I replaced the filters in it, which is a common problem with those. And I did a test at my little farm by two D72s, and that, simulated nodes, and it seemed fine, but the separation there was, half a kilometer going around testing it. It seemed to work, but 9600 is far more critical than 1200. And if there was any issues with the components in that radio, then it definitely would have played a part in the failure.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's one of
does anybody
Yeah.
have quickly coordinates for GD Hill? I don't have them in this copy.
Yeah, I can probably get you those.
I got them here too. Raceland. Kidding.
We're gonna find out something right now. It's live.
All right. GD Hill.
You beat me.
Decimal
Yeah.
or triplets?
Say
How
that
are you gonna
again.
give? It's
I
gonna be
can give
one.
you degrees and decimals.
Perfect.
40 north 40.246,355.
Mm-hmm.
West negative 76 455,554.
Cool. Let's see.
That's all I had.
Okay.
And I just pulled it up on Google. What I did is I just pulled it up on Google and put it on top of the tower.
And then also, if someone would please give me where Maryland Mountains was
I've got that one. Give me a second.
down at the tea house. I think you said it was.
I was above the tea house. It was in one of the parking spots next to a picnic table, which I used a picnic table last year, but I was in a parking spot. So the elevation was about as good as it was going to get there.
Yeah. I've got the one that was on the sign-up sheet, if that's where you were.
Within a couple of feet of that, I probably used
Okay.
the lat long from last year, but
All right. That one's 39.537333
Mm-hmm.
and negative 77,505,167.
Okay. Okay, so the question is Maryland Mountains to GD Hill Old or Maryland Mountains to GD Hill, not GD Hill. Let's see if we can make that happen here. Let's get that in here. You all can talk while I'm listening to this.
Oh, we're fascinated to watch.
Don't be
It
fascinated
always
by
makes the
this.
presenter nervous to know that all those eyes are watching his every mouse move.
Yeah, that's right.
does anybody know what chasm is?
Chasm,
Yeah.
like a hole between two mountains.
No,
In what
DHS.
context?
Sounds like another government acronym for some fancy tool.
It
Is
is.
that right?
Department of Homeland Security runs a site called Chasm, and you can do some of these same type of link analysis. And there's a lot of hams that would have access if you're Oxcon, and you've gone through the FEMA training. You just have to register for an account, and they would probably allow some people to do link analysis. The Army uses it to keep track of all their LMR stuff, which is why I'm involved with it. But it's a pretty good tool too.
What is it called again?
Chasm, CASM,
Ah,
and it's DHS website, or actually it's one of the DHF sub websites. One of their outliers for emergency management. I forget the one.
Communication Asset Survey and Mapping Tool.
That would be it.
CISA.gov.
That would be it.
Interesting. I have to check on this because I'm here in Stafford County with the MCOM team. Got, whatever, I don't know, for the ICS things done. I don't know if those are the ones that you're talking about, possibly having done.
Yeah.
Done.
If you've taken the Oxcom course, you would be in their database because I took the Oxcom course, even though I work for the Army right now. I took it, and when I talked to the program manager for access, he pulled me up and found me in it, even though I was going in from the government side. So if you've taken Oxcon, you would be registered in their database. And I could provide the POC. It's a DHS site, but it's actually managed by the Navy under contract out at Spa Wars in San Diego.
Well, it's interesting because I'm actually gonna put in my CAC here.
a Navy CAC, which is, and it says log in using your DHS PIV or DOD CAC. I'm just curious if I can get in.
You probably can get to the landing page, but you
Yeah.
probably won't be able to do much.
Yeah.
It's all permission based.
Yeah. Yeah. It's worth a shot tomorrow.
But I can provide you with the contact information if you want to try and get better access.
Oh yeah. It doesn't hurt. Use it down here in Stafford County too.
Well, and you've got
And
justification.
if it's Navy, my office funds it.
Well, whatever it used to be Spa Wars. I think it's Enwick now.
Navwar.
Navwar. Yeah, Navwar out of San Diego is the actual one that manages under contract for DHS.
And it might be, I think underneath them is Nywick. So Navwar, I think, is the overall, and then one of their little like
Yep, you're right. It is Nywick.
Yeah.
I don't have my work computer up right now, but I'll get it in the next couple of days and forward you the POC info.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So don't take these too literally, red bad. It's just lower. But it is definitely more questionable going northward from the Maryland Mountains spot that's on the side of that mountain range. Just saying.
And that's
I mean, it looks like you're right.
And that's Maryland Mountains, where Maryland Mountains was this year.
And last year.
And last year. Okay. And the 6 up there is where you're proposing possibly a change for that site that requires the hike in.
Big Flats is the drive up.
Oh, drive up. Okay. I'm just trying to get my context here.
Yeah, it's up near Shippensburg.
Wow.
I don't have a problem moving. And if anybody's interested, we could do some testing sometime before next year.
I'm all game.
And 6 looks gorgeous compared to that little blue triangle.
Yeah.
I hate to lose that spot because that's really a nice drive up spot, but I get it.
Yeah, it's got a better view, that's for sure, I think. But
it's only 45 minutes from my apartment in Fort Meade too.
Yeah.
So I just stay up here for that period of time, and it's a 45-minute drive. It's a little further up to the other one, but I would be game.
So you said Big Flats is a drive up?
Yeah. Well,
the parking lot.
The parking lot is, and I'm proposing that looks good enough here, but anything you do better than that's going to be. They did the shelter with a fairly tall mast.
Right. Okay.
Which is
there was a slingshot with the antenna 50 feet up.
Now, to keep true to the Appalachian Trail Golden Packet, is that actually considered part of the Golden?
Yes, that actually goes through it.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have it on this computer, but I do have usually I draw the path through here. So it's a little more kosher for the AT theme.
And the nice thing about where the shelter is there's an actual building there, and they have a actual house that people live in to maintain that portion of the trail. It's right there.
Yeah, so that's 7 instead of GD Hill.
Yeah.
Okay, no one's done Big Flats yet.
No.
All right, so
I looked at it for this past year, but I didn't have a good connection to Camelback.
Right, that was your proposal. I remember that. Or somebody. It wasn't my idea.
No, it was.
I just looked in the area and found the spot. The actual parking lot I did pick out, but in the general area I was looking around.
Yeah. 6 to 8 would be a long haul, but without 7 in there.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, from White Rock to that is a pretty long haul, but it's completely pristine valley.
Yeah, it's all open.
Same thing with Apple Orchard, so it's just a fortunate happenstance. But let's take one good look at. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to put that Windy Mountains where it was. And just for the sake of doing this, let's go to Maryland Mountains. To not Big Flats, but I'm going to stick with parking lot. That's the theme for the moment.
Oof. That hits a lot of hills on the way through.
And just to look at it for GD Hill. Well, that's a little strange. I think this is what was boggling my mind, because Maryland Mountains has a a local hill that seems to be sort of in the way. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. 2 meters is really good about crawling over stuff.
Yeah, it
The
is.
diffraction. But you see this number 3 right here. That's basically
Yeah.
the program saying, I'm just lying to you positively. But often the results are actually quite usable, even still. But that's what it's saying. There's obstructions that are too close for me to deal with, and I
That
don't have a
looks like
model for it.
that looks like the plot that I generated after the fact using the other site, using the data that I got from Ron in my own location. It looked just like that previous plot.
Yeah, but
Right. And if I put an elevation on both of them, it finally gets above it and gets rid of the
yeah, but
error, and it's still
Jim,
pretty weak.
your plot for the position was inside the mountain. It wasn't on top of the mountain. That's what I didn't understand.
Well, I mean, my view is I have foliage, but I don't see a mountain in either direction I'm looking, north or south. I'm at the pinnacle of Maryland Mountains at that park, except for foliage. I mean, there's tall
No,
pine
I
trees and
understand
others.
what you're saying. What I'm saying though is when you sent me the plot, when you sent the plot out to the group, you had it going, your straight line was like through the earth or
It
through
was,
mountains and stuff.
yeah, it was pretty close to that.
But your point on the GD Hill or the shelter was looked like it was on the backside of the mountain, 2/3 of the way down, and your elevation was only like 100 and some meters as opposed to like 450.
Right. We talked about that, and
Yeah.
that came from that site using I forget the acronym, but the shuttle radar
Right.
train. And
Yeah. But
I
can
take
tell
that as
you,
ground truth. But
well, you saw I sent you the picture of the phone that showed you I was at 1,461 or 1,471 feet with the location. So
yep.
yeah.
I don't think I have the right mountain's
Yeah.
location.
Go down, zoom down a little
It's
on the
down
site.
here, right? Tea
Yeah,
house somewhere.
it's Gramble. There you go. Keep going. That area right where your hand is the parking area and the park
Right.
itself.
Right
Yep.
there.
And I'm at the bottom end. The tea house, just go north of the tea, right exactly there, right in that parking spot there.
Let's fix this. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Indeed. Computers are very literal.
Wonder what AI would think of what we're doing here.
Mine is always telling me where to go.
Okay. A little bit lower elevation for wherever that was. So let's do this again. Boom. So interesting. Let me re-export. And let me get rid of this old one. So that looks more familiar. I'm assuming you had some elevation, of course. So yeah, it's a little more reasonable for sure.
Yeah.
So the question becomes between that and have a net set up for that. Hold on.
What do you have for the antenna above ground for Maryland?
By default is like a 3-meter antenna, some antenna up 3 meters. And
Probably
that
is
can
a
be
little
really,
bit higher than that, but not significantly.
I get it. It's just a matter of sometimes radio mobile is a bit of a thorny thing. It actually makes the resolution of the terrain to the pixels of the map that you're drawing. So if you zoom in a bit, it's a different answer than if it's zoomed out.
Didn't realize that.
So 3 meters is always kind of close unless you can always get them on the peak. I really should do it with like 50 feet or something, and just because to take that question away, so you're always at least getting out of that that difference. Stand by. Let me just put that in here. I'm not really sure. Let's see. Maryland Mountains, the GD Hill. I don't have it set up right, but I will.
You have that at 5 watts. My eyes aren't so good when the screen
Wait
is
a second.
small.
I have to make sure that this thing is. How tall is that tower?
65 feet.
Okay. So that helps. But there's definitely terrain here, according to what that says. Versus. Oh, excuse me. Well, this is a mess. It's definitely a chore to get all this in here correctly. But anyway,
Devil's in the details.
truth. I've always had a bit of an issue with the fact that Maryland Mountains, well, it used to be at Dick's house, which I think was one of the tallest places on this whole place, on top of a tower that as well. And I guess tradition has always kept us in this area. And I'm saying, let's just consider moving that to somewhere better suited. And that would be what I have found for this time is this thing called Big Flats AT parking lot. And for the very least, that we can keep it the same and just put an observer up there if we can get the manpower to be there in 2025 and just listen, see what he thinks. And then we have a good judgment of how good it is to the north and south and how robust. And
I mean, JJ's not on, but that could possibly be instead of, if JJ's available, instead of 2 people at GDO, we can split out, and I can, if he doesn't have a Kenwood, I can at least, give him my second Kenwood. Or if he's just listening, then he could just, a D72, D74, D75 would work.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, you could also just use an SDR or something and get a real accurate signal level too. That has packet decode capability. If you're just observing, it guarantees they won't interfere with the network either. Something to think about.
I mean, and it'd just be an additional station. I mean,
So anyway, that's really pretty much it. You've seen now my proposals, and we can flesh this out some more and do what we think. The biggest thing is moving Maryland Mountains, I guess, is my proposal, or at least examining it.
What just out of curiosity, I go and say it doesn't really matter what the distance is between Maryland Mountains and Big Flats. It's highway miles, and you got to go through. So what I was thinking is we'll just go to one and then shut down after a short period of time, and then move to Big Flats. But that would be a lot of work. So,
Yeah,
but if
but-
we could actually get maybe JJ available, I can drop off a Kenwood with him at Big Flats, and then Jim at Maryland Mountains, and then me at the what do you call it? The shelter. And then I can actually have everything set up and just, literally play with raising the antenna height and maybe with a different antenna.
That's near Gaithersburg, correct?
About to tell you.
Which one? Big Flats is near Shippensburg, if that's what you're looking for.
It's shipping. Okay.
Near Shippensburg. Yeah, it's off Shippensburg Road.
Oh, okay. Slightly into PA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can see Gettysburg and Chambersburg, and Shippensburg is north of it.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another one that I was looking at up there. I don't know if it was Liberty Mountain where they have, but there was like two ski resorts. One of them was maybe it was Round Top or something. There were two ski things, and neither one of them plotted good as a as a didn't neither one of them was that good if we moved it to one of those. But the big flats, I mean, didn't even think about going directly to White Rock like you did.
Yeah, I basically was just screwing around, desperately looking for a higher peak that's gets this ridge line, this inlineness thing. This is the same sort of issue we have between either Stonyman or Hawksbill to south. It's running along a ridge line, and it works. It's just thorny and that Gaussian distribution I showed you earlier with the links. That's what happens. It moves up and down that link depending on weather and what have you.
Yeah.
And if you got terrain in the way like that, it makes it, that literally does make it move around a bit.
Yeah, I just went back to last year. Jeremy sent me an email on the 18th, Tuesday after the event. It said lat long for Big Flats Trail parking lot is here. Big Flats, and it's one of those places that he said it's 800 feet higher than GD Hill at the top of the from the top of the tower, and he said they use it for their Simplex net and also for either POTA on the air or Summits on the air.
No,
Yeah.
it's a Summit. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it had enough. Well, I guess it does have enough prominence. I was just curious what the actual peak name is.
Yeah.
Big Flat wouldn't be a great name for a peak, but whatever. Anyway, so yeah, Maryland Mountains moves to this, and we already saw the one to the north was already tested this year with some success, and I think that will work better with this one. 6 and 7 link will be improved, but that's just a proposal. What say you? We have a long time to think about it, so
Yeah. I think
no answers.
if Jim and I can coordinate a weekend or two between now and then to go up and actually play with them, I think that would, I don't think we necessarily need to go to White Rock and have you in the play at the same time, but I mean,
It's
like
a big
you said,
ask.
it's a straight up the
3-hour
valley,
hike.
so it's not really an issue.
I'm game.
Yeah.
6 and 7, yeah. I mean, if you test that link just to make sure it works.
Yeah. Where you said you live in North Carolina, Jim?
I live in North Carolina, but like today and tomorrow,
Yeah.
I telework
Yeah.
North Carolina Thursday, Friday.
Where
I'm
you-
at Fort Meade today and tomorrow.
Yeah. Where do you live in North Carolina, as a curiosity?
About 40 minutes south of Raleigh and about 30 minutes north of Fort Liberty. It's called
Okay.
It's in between Sanford and Lillington, if you know that area.
Yeah, I mean, my father-in-law lives in Bladenboro, and sometimes I go up to Lynchburg and I'll drive right up whatever not 74, I forget what that road is that goes all the way. I come up 87 and then go straight up towards Greensboro, or whatever it is.
Okay. I'm about
Yeah,
an hour.
so I
and
go,
some
I mean,
time
I
from
drive straight through
Greensboro.
Sanford, on that road. So
Okay, so I'm 20 minutes to the east of that and 2 miles south,
yeah, okay.
off of 421.
And of course, none of that helps us test. The other thing that I was thinking of is if we're going to coordinate something, and I just happen to be in North Carolina, I could drop off a radio to you. Yeah.
Well,
If you're up here, I'm
Yeah.
I'm in Fredericksburg, so we can figure that out.
and depending on which drive I'm doing, I typically go through Fredericksburg, depending on the time of year and the travel on the interstate.
Okay. All right. So when you're doing it, we'll take a look and see if we can coordinate something.
Okay.
There's both of them, and I mean, I think Big Flats would be easy. I mean, to me, looking at it, it looks like it's an easy shot. And from where he has it plotted on the parking lot, the actual elevation of the shelter is probably another, I think it's 15 or 25. No, not meters. It's like another 50 or 75 feet higher. And then I get the antenna up 50 feet in the tree. So what I'd like to do is play with the antenna height, start it off low and then turn them on, start digipeating, going back and forth, and then or beaconing, and then start raising the antenna just to see how high I need, how, how it affects it and how reliable it gets as we go up and out in elevation. But that
Sounds
would
like
be
a
a quick
plan.
test.
Yep, I think
That
it would
and
be.
somebody at Camelback would be a pretty good test too. All
Yeah.
drive ups.
Yeah.
I might
Yeah.
even do that.
Yeah.
Just not this fall.
Yeah. Yeah, but hey, like I said, I know how to get to there. I know what I need to take for just a quick day trip. It would be an easy thing. So yeah, if one weekend I can do it with coordinate with Jim, and another weekend we can coordinate with you, John. However, I'm game.
Okay.
So
I'll just look at something here.
I mean, ultimately, the goal for this session is to find sites that will, give us a better chance of success. The one thing I wish I would have thought about, Jim, is when we were playing on 96 at the end, trying to talk, is if we would, if switching to 1200 would have made a difference. So
Totally agree. I think
yeah,
1200 is great at proving
I
that you
wish
can
we
actually set up a link.
Yeah, I just wish I would have thought about it before. And I literally, after I shut down and sent you the text or whatever it is that we were shutting down, I like, crap, I already just packed everything up. We should have done 1200.
Lynn and I have a running bet about that
Yeah.
because I actually witnessed it do the reverse way between Apple Orchard and either Hawksbill or Stony Man. I don't know which. Had that troubling link all the time, and I switched to 9600, and boom.
Well, we solve it. 2 radios, one on 1200, one on 9600 in parallel, just different frequencies, and we'll be fine.
That would be crazy.
Yeah.
John, I don't know if you saw in the chat, if you could email out the coordinates of that big flat site, I'll put it in as a proposed site in the
Sure.
APRS objects. I did just enable the GD Hill original object as well, just for grins.
Yes, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Let's see here.
This is the lat long I just found using Google.
For the big flats?
Yeah, right in the middle of that parking area.
Okay.
It's actually labeled as big flat parking area.
Yep.
I cannot type today.
What I find interesting is as you zoom in around that area of Big Flats, even though Pine Grove, Pennsylvania is over close to where I was at, there's actually Pine Grove Furnace very close to Big Flat. So as I'm zooming in, I'm like, wait a minute, how did I get near Pine Grove? But it's not, it's just there.
And right north of that is John F. Kennedy Boulevard.
Yep.
Wide open space. It looks like a great place to operate from. Although I'm seeing a tower, some type of a commercial tower not too far away. Don't know what the frequencies are, whether there would be a
Now there's
Intermod
two.
or
Yeah, there's 2 big flats. There's a Big Flats Appalachian Trail, which I think is the one John was showing, and then there's a Big Flats parking lot. They're only maybe a quarter mile apart.
I'm looking at the parking lot. That's a latitude and longitude, and it's right off Camp 18 Road and Shippenberg Road.
Yeah. So I think the one John pulled up is the one a little north. It's the parking lot. We need to make sure, but I think it's the parking lot that has, when you zoom in and on the Google Maps, it's right on the trail. The trail goes straight through the parking lot.
There's
So,
a parking lot, looks like an RV area that's just north of there.
That is a
no,
private
past that.
campground.
Past that.
Past that? Okay.
Yeah. Just go to the bend in the road that goes left. You'll see Big Flats Appalachian Trail recently, or you won't see recently viewed.
Anywhere near the Birch Run shelter?
I don't see the Birch Run shelter. But if you can see the map, the Appalachian Trail goes through Shippensburg Road. There's a parking lot right there.
Yeah,
So,
the Google Maps I got pulled up doesn't show the trail.
yeah. Okay. Oh, I pull. Okay. I pulled. I have the satellite on it.
There's
But
a Pine Ridge campground just before the bend in Shippensburg Road. And then Shippensburg turns into Baltimore Road.
so if you see where Reese Road is, or B&W Seamless Sprout, they're a little north and northwest of it. You know, because if you look at the big flats on the western side of it, where you had
Okay.
Camp 18 Road, if
Yep.
you just go north on that, you'll pass. You know, if you say the campground that's on the right hand side is halfway to the next parking lot.
Okay.
Pine Ridge is a permanent
Yeah,
campground.
right. Yeah, so it's on the screen right now.
Okay, I found it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It's actually labeled. I just had to zoom in. Big
Yeah.
Flats Appalachian Trail parking lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually looked at this place, but they basically accept season-long reservations. I thought, okay, it'd be cool just to camp there, but
Okay.
this is actually a little better.
Oh wait, the AT parking lot. She moved it on me. Just after I get the object put in there. I threw into the chat the link to aprs.fi showing where I put the object.
Okay.
So you're not there, you're up at that bend in Shippensburg Road? Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like you've got another 2,000, another 40 to 60 feet of elevation.
Okay, the APRS-FI link should have moved. Yeah, it did. From where I had it to where I think it should be now.
Oh, got to click on the others. I'm on two computers here, so
Yeah, and it shows the trail goes straight through that parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
yep, that looks good, Lynn.
Okay, good. Thank you. Just capturing that for posterity.
Not prosperity.
And to make it easier to change its name if we decide on it positively for next year.
Yeah.
I would propose keeping the same number, but actually changing it to BG flat.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. That lessens confusion.
Yeah,
Yeah. Tradition runs strong.
it
But,
does.
you know, White Rock and Hawksbill
The
were
force
never
is strong with you,
named
my
for the
son.
same thing. So it was always just like the Northern Virginia station, colloquially. Anyway, that's really all I
Yeah.
got.
Well, that is excellent work from my point of view.
Yeah. That answered a lot of questions.
So what we need next, John, is for you to go through the whole radio mobile setup. I know you did it for me once, but for the other guys, if they're interested.
Yeah. Don't worry, John.
Sure.
We're not going to try and get you for every knowledge share.
That's
I mean,
I'm sure that's right where his head went.
I wanted to put the kibosh on that, John. We're going to
Well,
save you.
John, when you and I talked like a few weeks ago that you were thinking about kind of like start tearing down and starting over, is that what you ended up doing, or?
You mean with ATGP planning?
Yeah, well, with radio mobile, like I thought you were just going to start your config all over again.
I did. And that's what 2025 is. And all that comes down into network properties when you're actually dealing with the literal sensitivities that we're dealing with here. I would like to get a value to put in here that more or less reflects the real threshold for decoding packet.
Right.
And Bob Berninga and I talked about this a lot. And he was just like, yeah, 2 or 3 bars. So I would involve that and try to make some hay with it. But the bigger thing is, as long as you're consistent with how you treat all these things. So unless the radio is truly a stellar receiver or something, you can see I've got lots of systems here, but mostly they're differing in their antenna type as well as the elevation of it. Like Dick on Governor Dick, Cumberland Mountain. This is a legacy, I think. No, actually, no, it's only got 2 meters height. So I actually did scrub this pretty harshly. No more, or early 2000s kind of thing. Um, this sensitivity is an important thing to have accurately portrayed. But the antenna itself is also good. I almost always use omnis unless I for sure know that the antenna is going to be pointed correctly, and then an honest gain. And in my case, I just assume everyone's like using an X50 or equivalent kind of thing. That's basically a unity gain half-wave dipole. It's just fine.
I always use
Dipole.
1 dB for unity gain omnis.
Well, DBI. So
Okay.
unity gain is 2.1. So it's 0 dBi. I'm sorry, it's a 2 point whatever um, dBi, which is 0 dBd. Nobody in professional will use a dBd anymore, so I stick with. I'm glad this thing uses dBi. It almost doesn't matter because little pieces of dB they certainly add up, but it's not like the end of the world. You're looking for a grand loss over terrain that you didn't maybe expect to see. That's what radio mobile is good for.
And your transmit power there, I mean, that would be a D72. Yeah, I would use 40 for a 710.
I'm very conservative about that. Of course, I always take my stuff hiking, so I always have it on medium power. Now, of
Well,
course,
that's a
with a
drive
lighter,
up spot. So I'm using, and I was using batteries anyway, but I was using LiPos. There was no issues pushing the high power on that 710.
that was our instructions in the beginning of it. That's for sure. But I was concerned about. I only held up basically one of those burglar alarm gel cells. Guess that was 7 amp hours, right? And I won't say I didn't use high power sometimes, but I was like concerned about having no battery at the end as opposed to a weaker signal. And it turns out I didn't need the power for White Rock Cliff, which is okay. Definitely needed it occasionally at the Hawksbill or Stony Man. So
More critical if you're packing it up there than it, for me. I was fortunate it's a drive up spot. So I didn't really have to worry about the weight consideration and the amount of stuff that um, 3 years ago, I did some other Maryland spot. I don't ever want to do that one again because it really was a hike, almost like a vertical cliff. And I just had COVID and ended up doing it in a driving rainstorm. And it was a beautiful view from the top, even though it was cloudy. But I packed it all and it was about 50 pounds worth of stuff. I don't really ever want to do that again. That was a very unpleasant day. I can't remember the name of the site. It was before we went back to Maryland Mountain.
what year, roughly?
This was 24, 23, would have been 22.
Okay, I missed that one. I'm sad I did. And topology, I would use DataNet with their master and slave concept that allows you to get the lines drawn between the sites that you want and not every possible combination, which would be another default. And if you go in here, you can actually set the master and then the slaves appropriately. And you can also have it set up that if you set one to a master, they are all automatically, all the others are set to a slave in a given membership group. And depending on what I'm trying to do, all I'm trying to get is pretty lines drawn on a map appropriately. If it's just single lines, one master, one slave for each grouping, will work. And then, of course, we get to this. What do you call to the lines? Here, this is relative signal. I always have to refresh my memory on this. Above the threshold of 95% or better, that achieves the receiver threshold. So it's a combination of statistics, the receiver threshold, and the numbers that you see right here. So I call it green if it gets above that threshold for our purposes. And then just basically a signal, one S unit down for yellow, and anything else is a red. That's pretty tight. some people are a little more aggressive with this, and they'll say, okay, it's only green if we've got like S5 or something like that, which is kind of rare in our case. If you're doing a repeater map or some kind, that might be appropriate, or your local ARC. But whatever you pick, just be consistent about it. So at least when you start seeing deviations, you'll not be surprised. And of course, when you do these things, you get all kinds of nice data. Again, the received relative to the threshold, that is the radio's receiver threshold, whatever you set in the unit parameters, and the probability. And that was right here, over here, percent of situations spot. That's what I have it set to. And that's a pretty aggressive number. I was at 70% before, but after talking to Jeff a little bit, we decided to move it up just to make sure that this thing at least tries to predict robust links and flags ones that are not that way. So I've used this tool in a variety of ways and then gone out and actually done real world comparisons a few times, and it's been pretty good. Like for example, I live in the Washington D.C. area. My church was going to have a Super Bowl night, and I wanted to get HD signal into the church. So I wanted to put up an HD antenna on top of the roof, but could it pick up Washington D.C. channel 7, which is still on VHF, by the way. So I used Radio Mobile to flesh that out, and it was right on the edge, but it said it should make it. And sure enough, I put it up there and it made it. You know, that's just a coin flip data point, but nonetheless, it has been pretty good. And it even will predict knife edge diffraction of 2 meters pretty well, which I was floored by. We do these horse races all the time where 2 meters can get over the mountains pretty well. And there was this one case, and it's actually right here. If you see it, it's a bowl of a long bowl valley, and they have the race right in there. See it? And I was able to talk to this guy in that bowl on 66 for quite a ways over the edge of this thing. And then I went back to Radio Mobile and did the same thing to kind of look at it. And yes, it was sort of in and out, but it showed it can make it. The way I understand the model that's all behind this is that it is an empirical model that was built on actual observation as opposed to straight up calculation and guessing. So it's the Longley Rice, I believe, is what it is. Price can't be beat. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
So get yours today.
Yeah, I've actually looked into some of the commercial products and like just seeing if they throw us a bone and give us a discount for what Golden Packet does. No way. You know what's interesting? Open up a browser and go to cloudrf.com.
Sure.
So you can actually get a free account on this site, and I believe that the free account would be enough to do what we need, but their interface is a little, I don't know. Site is pretty well regarded. A lot of people use this. A lot of companies use this.
Kind of
But
like
yeah,
a splat. It's cool.
it's Splat, but like a very commercialized version of it.
Yeah, that had buildings. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when you get into the interface, it's pretty intense stuff. They've been working on it for years. I think they have. I mean, I think they used parts of Splat when they were first getting started, but it's. I mean, it's their own product at this point. The thing I
Interesting.
had problem with
IT
was like antennas and there's just a lot of parameters I just didn't know what to use.
Yeah, I recognize some of these other ones from some of the other government models that kind of roll it all into the same monstrous package.
But yeah,
This
I think
should
it's worth checking out. I mean, it's
that should
in a
say
way,
20.
yeah, in a way, I think like as long as we could provide it the right data, it'd be easier to use than it would open it up to people who are not on Windows.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I have heard of this before. Uh, just so you know, it doesn't go down to 2 megahertz, it's 20. So that's a typo.
Oh,
But Radio Mobile won't flag that, by the way. It just tells you an answer. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. But whatever. Their scorecard is pretty good. So I'm not worried about it.
all right, guys.
All right.
You wanna call it, Ron?
Yeah. Unless anybody has anything, I mean, I think we're down to what? Is it just 6 people now? But
Yep.
yeah.
Put him to sleep, huh?
Well, we knew Tim had to leave, and but that's all right. I mean, no, this was good because we got we got homework to do, which is go out and check big flats and compare it, and see if we can do something. Because nice thing is it's still that's a drive up site. If we get a good connection to White Rock, which we should, but the big issue is, if we can get in good to GD Hill, and everything looks good for that, the shelter / GD Hill. And we knew we were good north, so to Camelback. So no, I think this is good. So
Yeah, my northern proposals are too difficult because they require some pretty stout hiking.
Yeah. And I looked at a couple different places on the Appalachian Trail in Pennsylvania that had some really nice peaks, but there was no access. You were going to be doing a couple miles on the trail. And and then just to the northeast of northeast of the shelter where I was, there's a nice cell tower there. But chances of being able to get into that, it would still be a hike, but even to get into that place with the higher location, then you would, not knowing what RF's there, it may be optically better and a path analysis better, but it may be completely just terrible because of the other radio sites there or other radioactivity. So, but no,